unequivocally condemn the criminal act of aggression by the United States against Iran and to hold the administration in Washington accountable for its violations of fundamental principles of United Nations Charter and of norms of international law. The responsibility of the IAEA and its Director General, who through evident bias in favor of warmongering parties paved the way for the current violence and bloodshed, is now clearer than ever. We call on the IAEA Board of Governors to immediately convene and carry out its legal responsibility in response to the dangerous US attack on Iran's peaceful nuclear facilities, all of which have been under the agency's full safeguards and monitoring. The world must not forget that it was the United States which, in the midst of a process to forge a diplomatic outcome, betrayed diplomacy by supporting the genocidal Israeli regime's launch of an illegal war of aggression on the Iranian nation. Not content with such malign actions, the United States itself has now also opted for a dangerous military operation and aggression against the people of Iran. In doing so, the US administration holds sole and full responsibility for the consequences of its actions, including the Islamic Republic of Iran's right to self-defense under the principles of the United Charter. In accordance with the UN Charter and its provisions allowing a legitimate response in self-defense, Iran reserves all options to defend its security interests.
Del Circo Soleil de Nayarit, de que están haciendo un nuevo parque que va a ser en...
We'll now be taking questions. We'd like to start.
Var. Bir, Amerika zaten yoğun saldırılar yapabilir ama burada nokta saldırıların ötesinde bir daha geniş kapsamlı bir saldırı olmasını bekliyorum. Çünkü bu Irak hükümetinin altına aslında kazan bir şey olur. Irak hükümetinin ayağını kaydıracak bir hareket olur. Onun egemenliğine aykırı bir hareket olur. Zaten yapılan saldırılar var. Ne olabilir? Haçlı Şabi'nin bölgedeki Amerikan üslerine saldırıları olma ihtimali var. Bir de Irak'ta çokça karşılaştığımız bir Türk vatandaşlarının da başına geldi. Amerikan vatandaşlarının muhtelif Haçlı Şabi unsurları tarafından nasıl diyelim derdest edilmesi, kaçırılması sonucunda işte fidye değil de daha diplomatik olarak bir nasıl diyeyim esir üzerinden bir koz alınması. Hatta geçtiğimiz günlerde bir
Amerikalı bir gazeteci kaçırılmıştı.
olması lazımdı. Bir Amerikalı gazeteci Bağdat'ta hem de şey yapıldı.
Ona ilişkin sonra bir gelişme yok sanırım değil mi hocam şu an? Gazetecinin nerede olduğuna ilişkin açıklama gelmedi.
Ama şunu söyleyebilirim. Hatta birkaç sene önce de bir yine galiba Amerikan-İsrail çifte vatandaşı bir akademisyen Haçlı Şabi tarafından kaçırılıp 2 sene kadar şeyde tutulmuştu. Bu son Amerikalı kadın gazetecinin kaçırılması hadisesi dahi bunu tetiklemiş olabilir. Çünkü bu tarz bir eğilimin olması şu demek, yani karşı taraf büyük saldırılar yapmadan dahi Amerikan vatandaşlarını kaçırarak size karşı elinde bir koz, bir müzakere masası, bir koz elde ediyor. Bu kozu hem Irak içerisinde hem de İran'ın lehine kullanabilme ihtimali var. Yani sadece büyük çatışmalar, Amerikan üstlerine yönelik çalışmalardan ziyade vatandaşların böyle bir şey gelmesi, yani sadece vatandaşların can güvenliğini korumak değil, Haçlı Şabi unsurların eline veya işte İran'a müzahir unsurların eline esir bırakılmaması adına bir ön alma hareketi gibi geliyor bana.
Şimdi gelelim o zaman az önce sorduğumuz başlığa, yani Körfez başlığını açacağız tekrar. Körfez başlığını açtığımızda özellikle son dönemde daha da güçlü şekilde dile getirilen Birleşik Arap Emirlikleri. Birleşik Arap Emirlikleri'nin İran'a yönelik bir Amerika Birleşik Devletleri tarafından gerçekleştirilecek olası bir kara harekatında ön sırada yer alacağı ya da İran'a yönelik bir savaşta cephe olarak yer alacağı.
Ertesi gün yine çakar. Yani devamlı güvence altında yani. Peki. Sıkıntı yok.
Paramız yok, borcumuz var, Allah'a şükürler olsun. Nasıl yatırım yapacaksın? Kendimizi zor geçindiriyoruz.
Sözcünün manşetiyle devam ediyoruz. Millilerin villası Flamingo kanadında manşeti atıldı. TFF Başkanı İbrahim Hacı Osmanoğlu Dünya Kupası'na giderek milli takım oyuncularına Bodrum'dan villa hediye edeceğiz demişti geçtiğimiz yıl. Ancak projenin flamingoların barınma alanı. Sözcünün manşetiyle devam ediyoruz. Millilerin villası Flamingo kanadında manşeti atıldı. TFF Başkanı İbrahim Hacı Osmanoğlu Dünya Kupası'na giderek milli takım oyuncularına Bodrum'dan villa hediye edeceğiz demişti geçtiğimiz yıl. Ancak projenin flamingoların barınma alanı. Sözcünün manşetiyle devam ediyoruz. Millilerin villası Flamingo kanadında manşeti atıldı. TFF Başkanı İbrahim Hacı kullanılacağının iddiaları da şu anda söz konusu.
Bu iddialara tabii yanıt gelecek mi hep birlikte bakacağız. Öte yandan da tabii takipçisi de olacağız bu ifadelerin. Ancak hep birlikte şimdi bir devam edelim. Milli takım Dünya Kupası biletini aldı.
Evet ve Bakan Tekin'den de bir açıklama geldi. Çünkü sınav tarihiyle maç çakışıyor. Yeni tarih olabileceğini söyledi.
2026 Dünya Futbol Şampiyonası'nda dün playoff aşamasını açtık. Tabii playoff'u geçinceye kadar milli takımımızın maç takvimine bakmamıştık. Ama milli takımımız Dünya Kupası'na katılınca maç takvimine baktık. Ve 14 Haziran günü yani LGS sınavını yapacağımız gün sabah 7'de milli takımımızın grup maçı var. Dolayısıyla biz çocuklarımızın gönüllerinin
down anti-ship missiles and drones. It's hard. We did this in the Red Sea with a small coalition. It's a very difficult military mission and strategic equation. And the way we're talking about our allies every day, I don't see the allies really signing up to take on this mission. They should. I mean, they should. It is in their interest to do it. We should stay on them. But I think the Strait of Hormuz remains a very unresolved issue here, and I didn't really hear an answer on it.
Well, I mean, if what Brett's hearing is that there's a potential escalation here. The president talked to Americans about rising gas prices, but he said that they would come down after the war is over. I mean, if the war is going on for 2 to 3 more weeks, maybe longer than that, do you think that that was sufficient?
Well, they're going to start to come down. I think he's right to recognize it. He's trying to show the American public that he hears their anxiety about it. And I do think gas prices are going to be one of the drivers of public opinion on the war. I think Brett's right about what he said about the allies, though. He called on our allies to come in and take over the Strait and deal with the Strait. Now, he's mostly talking about Japan and Korea. Both of them get about half their oil and gas through the Strait of Hormuz. But he's also talking about Europe. And I think the heads of state of our NATO allies need to have heard this message pretty loud and clear. We've maintained bases in their countries. We've fueled their economies. We've protected them from Russia for 75 years. And they wouldn't let us use our own bases in their country to engage in our national security here. And I think that, I'm a big supporter of NATO. Most Republican senators I talk to are as well. But I think there's a real schism here. And I think if our allies they need to hear the president tonight. And it's time to get on the horse and ride.
Well, I should know, the president saying that he could withdraw from NATO. It was his Secretary of State who did co-sponsor a bill saying the president can't unilaterally do so. He needs Congress to help him. Karen, overall, not just on NATO, what do you think Americans heard in that speech 1 month in?
Look, if you are concerned about your own pocketbooks, and let's be honest, that's what most Americans were probably listening for. They're listening for, how's this going to affect my life, my economy? You weren't reassured. As Brett pointed out, if we're talking about an escalation, he's talking about 2 to 3 more weeks, then we're looking at, and he said this was going to be over in 4 weeks, then we're talking 7 to 8 weeks, and the kind of escalation he was talking about doesn't sound like it's just going to be 2 to 3 more weeks. We're sort of joking about this. Everything's 2 more weeks, 2 more weeks, 2 more weeks. So that's a concern. And even in his conversation about the economy, he said, it was so great a month ago. No, it wasn't. People were, his numbers on the economy have been going down steadily for quite some time. So I don't think people heard anything to make them feel reassured about why did we have to do this right now. I know he tried to make this imminent argument, but again, the fact checkers will, I think, correct that. And he did not make a case he didn't call people to action, to be a part of this. He really tried to, and I don't think people are going to believe that just because he says it should be over, that everything all of a sudden is going to go back to normal. I don't think people buy that.
Everyone stand by. We are analyzing President Trump's speech. And I should note, as we have been discussing what the president was just saying from the White House, Iran is hitting its Gulf neighbors this evening. Air raid sirens have been sounding right now in the UAE. And according to officials there on the ground, their air defenses are actively engaging incoming missiles and drones. We've got a team in the Middle East across this, and Jim Sciutto is joining me live from Tel Aviv. Matthew Chance is in Doha. And Jim Sciutto, obviously, you were just talking about the sirens going off in Tel Aviv all day long. One thing the president was driving home is that this is for the safety of the world. He was saying that past U.S. presidents should have done this and was addressing Iran's capabilities. What stood out to you?
Well, I said before the speech that what folks in Israel will be listening for is his answers on Iran's missile capabilities and on its nuclear program. And we got those answers. On the missile capabilities, he said that they've been dramatically curtailed. And while that may be true, it's cold comfort to people here who, myself included, spent a good part of their day in bomb shelters at the start of the Passover holiday, I should note, as Iranian missiles continue to rain down on Israel. On the nuclear program, his answer is that the U.S. is going to monitor it from satellites. And if they make a move, he says, the U.S. will take action. That has not been Israel's goal at the start of this war. I've been told by multiple Israeli officials that they would not consider the war a victory unless that 400 kilos of enriched uranium was controlled in some way. That does not appear to be the president's goal here, even as the war continues. Finally, just regarding Iran and the nuclear deal, he says that he